Hello! We have got a new update. And it's not update 19, it's technically not a major update. We call it 18.2, but it's kind of big. We've done some stuff, and I'm very excited to show it to you. And the reality is that this update would have been released like a week ago, but I've been down with the flu, possibly corona, been coughing and having terrible nose runniness over the past 9 days. Anyway, the first thing I want to show you in this small, massive update is potentially one of the best things we've ever added. We have added a vault map. This vault map is rendered on the top left-hand side of your screen, and it replaces the 0 minimap while inside a vault. It displays your position in the center, the way you're facing, and any discovered rooms. Grey tiles represents common rooms, while blue tiles represent ore rooms. Challenge rooms are rendered with orange, and their individual icon on top of it. Omega rooms will render in a nice omega green, and of course again with their individual icon rendering above them so you know what omega room you discovered. The start room will show the orientation of the entrance to it on the minimap, so that you know which way to go to get back home. And did I mention that the minimap is unlocked by default? It requires no research, it's just there from the very beginning. With the addition of the minimap, we also changed the display of the end screen map, and you can now pan and zoom this, or zoom in and out to look at your discovered rooms. Isn't this beautiful? I think it looks absolutely gorgeous. Oh, and by the way, these little dark squares indicates that you have explored that tunnel. Now, we didn't just add a minimap. We went all in. There is a new couple of researches under the renamed group Vault Upgrades. This is also now where the Vault Compass lives. You can unlock the Vault Map research, as well as the map markers research. The vault map is a craftable item. It's a little bit on the expensive side, but as long as you have one of these in your inventory, you will have access to a full screen map. And to access it, all you do is right click this thing and look at this. Let me just go and explore a little bit so that it looks a little bit more impressive. There we go. Look at that, and you can pan and zoom this all you want. This is so incredibly useful. Now, you don't have to right click this, but you do need to have it in your inventory. But you can have it anywhere in your inventory, and you can keybind the map. The default keybind is M for map. But we didn't stop with just a full screen map and a minimap. As a Diablo player, I also wanted an overlay like this, rendering on top of my screen either by holding down a key or toggling it with a key. I believe the default keybind for that is N, as in, nope. I don't know why it's N, but it is. Now this overlay, we also made sure to make customizable in the options and Vault Hunters options and accessibility settings. You'll find the Vault Map settings, and in here you can set the opacity to the overlay. So maybe you want it at like 50%, and now when you look at it, it's only barely visible. Well, it depends on the theme and how good your eyes are, I suppose. But to me, this is almost like I could have it up at all times. I'll probably use this quite a lot personally in my own playthroughs. I think it's super useful, and I think it's so dang pretty. I'm super proud of the map, I'm not gonna lie. And maybe more so, I'm proud of the ability to customize everything in accessibility settings so that it fits our players' needs. But we weren't done there. We also, as I showed you, added map markers. And map markers are craftable using magic silk and vault essence, and they can then be dyed to pretty much any color you want. And these, when placed down in a room, will display a marker on the map, both on the minimap, the full screen map, and the overlay. This can be very useful if you, for example, find a good POI that you want to mark for later, or if you find a dungeon. But perhaps their biggest use is multiplayer. I can mark a position, and my party members will be able to see the marker on the map, on their map, that is. Now that brings me to the next thing. Not only do we have markers and rooms discovered, you'll also see your teammates on the map when playing a multiplayer vault. Now your map doesn't discover for them, and their map doesn't discover for you, but you'll be able to work out pretty quickly where they are. Now there is one more thing that the map does. In the past, when you made a custom crystal using inscriptions to add specific rooms to your run, your knowledge of where the rooms were was limited to the little map indicator in the start room, but now they also display on the minimap, the overlay map, and the vault map. I genuinely think that these map additions are some of the best additions we've ever done to Vault Hunters. You'll have to let me know down below in the comments how you feel about it. There used to be this sentiment that vaults should be easy to get lost in. And while we had the vault compass, it was still possible to get lost, for sure. It's happened to me several times. Getting lost isn't that fun. I've never been a fan of mazes. But hey, there's more in this update. We have made some fundamental changes to swords and axes. In an effort to try and make swords and axes more different from each other, we have buffed both of them. With axes, we have made a new implicit that always rolls on axes called double damage chance. And at level 50, it rolls between 20 to 70%. Now this does what it says on the tin. There's a chance that you deal double damage when attacking with your axe. However, it only affects on-hit attacks, so it only affects the actual target you hit and nothing else that the axe does. So for example, there I did 40 damage, there's 20 again. So it doesn't transfer to things like javelins, which should make axes slightly more unique and definitely more interesting, because they should now be very strong at killing bosses and champions and that sort of thing. For swords, we moved the attack damage dealt as sweeping hit to an implicit. That means that every sword will always have this stat. And basically what it does is 24% of my damage will be dealt as sweeping attack damage to other mobs in the sweep. And yeah, that's a bit of a low roll, I was gonna say. That's a bit of a low roll, but the fact that all swords have this makes all swords now have that base AoE hit, which is another buff. Hello, sir. I am recording an update video here. Now, speaking about gear, we made another massive change to how you can craft and modify your gear. We overhauled the Faceted Focus. This focus is often forgotten about. They're acquired randomly when scrapping gear, and they contain a modifier. When used in an artisan station, they will re-roll the gear piece like a wild focus, but guaranteeing the modifier that's on the Faceted Focus. We changed that. First of all, there was an issue with displaying all your different faceted focuses. If you played Vault Hunters, I guarantee you that you have a couple of chests looking just like this, and you'd have to hover all of them to see what it is. We did this. We made an icon representing each individual stat on the faceted focus. My favorite being this 12 damage. Look at this guy. Oh, it's brilliant. It's just perfect. But yeah, so this should give you a visual indication and very quickly pinpoint you towards what you're looking for. So for example, mana regen is this one here. One of my favorite is this pickup range, which I think looks great, as well as the damage ones, the attack damage and the damage percentile, or the ability power looks pretty sick. To be honest with you, I think most of these look pretty cool. But that should certainly help in identifying what faceted focus you need for your specific gear piece. But the second thing is the way they work. No longer will they re-roll your gear piece. If available, they will simply add their modifier. So this is an armor faceted focus, and if I put it on this chest plate, it's going to keep the trap disarm and durability and add armor. Very similar to the crafted modifiers, with the exception of being able to be applied multiple times. So if I now use a mana regen here, because I have an empty suffix next to my cooldown reduction, I can add mana regen as well. Yes, if you play a lot of Vault Hunters, you understand that this is a massive buff to gear modification. It gives a lot more control to the player in terms of building their gear. Now, it does require you to have an empty spot for the affix to go on, and it also requires you to not have a conflicting affix. So for example, if I would have a prefix of health on this chestplate, I couldn't add mana even though I have a mana faceted focus, because they conflict with each other. All in all though, I think that this is a massive upgrade and gives the player so much more control, which I think is a good thing. RNG is great, and I'm a big fan of RNG, but I do feel like we have space to add more control to the player. Did I say this was a massive, tiny, small, massive, big Omega update of Doom? I believe I did. Let's move on. Another thing we've done is we've added our own HUD display options. Now, previously we relied on a mod called Inventory HUD Plus, which was great. It was a great mod, but it didn't fill all of our requirements for things to show because of the fact that we have trinkets and void stones and charms and all of these things. We couldn't get it to display all of the different things. So we built our own. And maybe most importantly, we made it super customizable. So right now, I am displaying the uses left on my trinkets, my charm, and my void stone. And then I have a durability indicator on all of my gear pieces, including my magnet. In accessibility settings and HUD display, you can edit the position of all of these different things. So for example, if you want to display your helmet up here and your chest plate next to it, but your leggings down here for some reason, and your boots down here, and maybe your magnet on your crosshair, I don't know, people have different preferences, then you can do that. It's completely customizable, and as you can see, they're now there on my screen. It's a little bit annoying to have a magnet in my mouth, but there it is. And you can do a lot more things under this HUD display setting menu. For example, you can choose to display it only while using a keybind. And then you can go to settings and bind that key to whatever you want. So I'll bind it to Q here, and now whenever I hold Q, I'll be able to see all of the things. This also works together with the vault map. Now you can also leave this on always, but change when it displays. So for example, I may only want my gear to be shown on the screen when it's very low durability or low durability. And if I have this on one of those settings, nothing will show until the gear is damaged enough to display itself. And I think the thresholds for that for low is 25% and very low is 10%. That's another thing inspired by Diablo and other ARPG games that have indicators displaying whenever the gear is actually low and it's relevant. The same can be done for the use items, so trinkets, etc. You can set it to very low, low, or always. You can also change the size of the icons, so they're small or even tiny if you have insanely good Eyes of Doom and you feel like that is good enough for you. You can change where the text is displayed or remove the text altogether if you just want an indicator. Now for gear, you can also change this gear indicator to be overlay instead of a bar. And what that does is it renders default icons that I drew. They're so pretty. Now, once your gear starts taking damage, instead of there being a durability bar, you can see that the fill of the item itself gets lower. It's a preference thing. The magnet is still in my face. Yeah, it's a preference thing. Now, since we did the HUD display, we also added this thing here called Use Items Overlay. And if you turn this on, if you now look at any use item in your inventory, they will actually display the amount of uses that they have left in the inventory itself. Yeah, this is not how you would want to have this configured. Very obnoxious. Some people like it though. I've seen gamers play with a lot of HUD information in their face at all times. Personally, I'll probably have display mode to keybind and then have it together with the overlay and position them in a good, nice way so that whenever I look at the overlay map, I also see all of the icons. I think that's what I'm going to do. Or maybe I'll have them only display when they are getting low. I'm not sure. But all in all, this should help players like myself not going into vaults with a completely empty trinket or charm or dead boots. Yeah, that's happened many times for me. Now for the next thing we have done. We have updated the Rune boss. Now, the Rune boss itself has gone down extremely well in terms of feedback from the community. It seems like a lot of people love the idea of finding runes and having a reward tied to them so that you can customize your crate. However, we got an amazing suggestion from one of our Patreon champions, Duck from Hell, who said, what if the amount of runes you can submit isn't capped so that you can submit an infinite amount of runes? With the trade-off being that it becomes more challenging, of course, as every rune adds a negative. And I said, yes, that's a fantastic idea. And so we've done that. There's no longer a cap on the amount of runes you can submit. You can submit any amount of runes. All it asks for is a minimum amount. So this boss requires at least 5 different runes. Now, of course, we needed to do something to balance this, as it allows you to literally build an Omega Crate of Doom. So what we did was we added the extra health to all runes. So no matter what your main or primary rune is, they will always increase the health of the boss, ensuring that the more you put in, the tougher the boss is going to be to kill. Once you've got the minimum amounts, you are now able to right click with an empty hand, and that will summon the boss. Hello, sir. I'm in creative, so you're not really interested in me, are you? Also, this sword sucks. Yep, there's more. Another huge thing that might not be visible and flashy and anything like that, but that is indeed huge and very important for the game, is our Vault Generation performance improvements that we've done. And I want to give a big shout out to my main man, Rune. Hello, Rune, who's worked tirelessly for the past 4 weeks or so with improving base generation code so that the vault loading and generation is much faster. Now I also need to give a shout out to Implement Legends, who created the Vault Faster add-on mod, which we added to the mod pack a few updates ago, and that significantly improved performance in the game. However, Implements Legends have declared that he has moved on to other projects and won't be updating Vault Faster anymore, so we decided we needed to implement stuff ourselves. And Rune, with his all hard work and late nights, managed to make the Vault load time 8 times faster and the chunk generation inside the Vault 80 times faster. Yeah, 80. 80. So if you tried to launch Vault Hunts in the past on a PC and it was really struggling, try again with this update and see if there is a difference. Now, thanks to our great new build member, Kat, we have added a new version of the library room. And this is in addition to the old library room. Now you can find either. This one is a little bit more open. It's the same amount of chests and it looks absolutely fantastic. Kat also made a brand new version of the Mushroom Omega Room, and it looks so good. Thank you, Kat, and welcome to the team. There's still more to go through. Let's do a quick rundown of some things. We added Iron Furnace and Modular Routers to Modbox rewards, and I also updated Modboxes so that they give a little bit more interesting things specifically for thermal expansion. We added a new command to force Sky Quests on Sky Vaults. God Altars now show you what task they are asking you to do before you take it. Vault Dwellers now have a new step sound, as well as a new hurt sound, or damage sound, and a new death sound. Choice Flasks have new icons that displays the ability on the flasks themselves. The cutest one is this shell. Big shout out to Kat again for this change. And speaking about icons, we also updated and remade the Rampage icon and the Vampiric icon. These are a lot better, I think. Temporal modifiers can no longer be used in the Herald fight. It was a bit of an oversight, I'm not gonna lie. Overpower kind of broke the fight. We removed durability damage from Trial Chamber Vaults. Another bit of an oversight. We added a tooltip function so that you can check the theme and the stats of the theme on the end screen. Vanilla Immortality now protects your tools in raw vaults. Yep, that's been requested 1,000 times. And there are about 25 bugs that we fixed as well. Yes, we did fix the dweller balance so that the purple mob essence required in scav vaults are much lower and the dweller kill task for God Altars is much lower. That was another oversight on my part from the last update. I apologize. If you want to read all of the bug fixes and the other small changes, you can always check out the patch notes, vaulthunts.gg/patch notes. I'll put a link down below in the description. Now, last but not least, I want to say a massive thank you to the development team and a massive, massive thank you to everyone who's supporting us on Patreon. Patreon.com/vaulthunters means so much to the development of this mod pack. Now, this update will be released tomorrow, June 1st, and we are already working on the big update 19 that features the endgame stuff for the pack. I hope that you have enjoyed this video and the update, and yeah, as I said at the beginning of the video, I'm sorry for my absence. I've had the flu or some sort of big cold. I will be back to streaming tomorrow, my usual time, 2 p.m. at twitch.tv/escal85. I see you then.